The sound of applause crashes over me like a wave, but I remain perfectly still, my fingers wrapped around the stem of my champagne glass. Jessica stands in the center of our living room, basking in the adoration of our extended family, her voice still echoing in their minds. I count the seconds until I can escape upstairs. My name is Kylie, and I've spent 20 years being the shadow to my sister's spotlight. That was absolutely magnificent, darling. Mother rushes forward, enveloping Jessica in a tight embrace. Tom, wasn't that just incredible? Father beams with pride, his hand already reaching for his wallet. I think this calls for a special announcement. He clears his throat, commanding attention from our assembled relatives. We've decided to invest in Jessica's future at Julliard, full tuition. The champagne turns bitter in my mouth. My full scholarship to MIT sits unmentioned, gathering dust in my desk drawer upstairs. Oh my God, Daddy, Jessica squeals, her perfectly manicured hands clasping together. I can't believe it. I can. I've watched this scene play out 1,000 times before, just with different props and different lines. Great Aunt Evelyn catches my eye from across the room, her knowing gaze cutting through the celebration. She's the only one who sees me slip away, moving through the crowd like a ghost. I make it halfway up the stairs before the voices drift up from Father's study, carried through the old heating vent. The mortgage refinancing should cover the first year, Father says, his voice tight with concern. Tom, we have to make it work, Mother insists. This is Jessica's dream. We can't let her talent go to waste. And Kylie's college fund. A pause. My heart stops. Well, Mother says slowly, she's always been practical. She'll understand that her sister needs this more. Besides, with her grades, she can get loans. The words hit like physical blows. I press my hand against the wall to steady myself, my vision blurring. She's never asked for anything, Father adds, as if that justifies everything. Jessica, though, this could be her big break. I've never asked because I learned early that asking meant watching Jessica receive while I went without. 20 years of being the good daughter, the practical one, the one who understood. My phone buzzes in my pocket, a text from Lucas, Jessica's boyfriend. Need to talk. It's about Jay important. Below it, another message arrives from Great Aunt Evelyn. Come see me tomorrow, dear. I have a proposition for you. The party continues downstairs, Jessica's laughter floating up like poison. I look at my reflection in the hallway mirror, really look at it for the first time in years. I see someone I barely recognize, a girl who's spent her whole life being invisible. We'll tell Kylie about the college fund tomorrow, Mother says through the vent. She'll understand. She always does. Something shifts inside me, like a key turning in a lock. I delete Lucas's message without responding and save Evelyn's. Tomorrow they'll expect me to understand, to smile and step aside like I always have. Tomorrow they'll expect the same Kylie they've always known. But as I stand here, listening to them plan my future without me, I make a decision. They want to write me off as the practical daughter. Fine. I'll show them just how practical I can be. I take one last look in the mirror, raise my champagne glass to my reflection, and smile. It's not the smile of the good daughter anymore. It's something else entirely. Let them have their celebration tonight. Tomorrow, I start playing by my own rules. Great Aunt Evelyn's cottage smells like Earl Grey tea and old books. She watches me from her armchair as I pace across her worn Persian rug, my hands trembling with barely contained rage. They're telling me this morning, as if it's already decided. I stop at the window, staring at her overgrown garden. Mother actually said, "We know you'll be reasonable about this, dear." Sit down, Kylie. Evelyn's voice carries the weight of decades of wisdom. You're wearing a path in my favorite rug. I sink into the chair opposite her, but my leg won't stop bouncing. They're taking my college fund, everything I've saved since I was 12, all those summers working at the library, all those birthdays when I asked for money instead of presents. And what did you say to them? Nothing. I laugh, but it sounds hollow. I smiled and nodded like the good practical daughter they expect me to be. Then I walked out and came here. Evelyn sets down her teacup with a decisive clink. I've watched this pattern for 20 years, my dear. Your parents aren't bad people, but they're blinded by Jessica's star quality. They don't see how their choices affect you. My phone buzzes again. Another message from Lucas. I silence it without looking. I received my acceptance letter from MIT yesterday, I say quietly. Full academic scholarship. I was going to use my savings for living expenses, maybe even graduate school. They don't know about the scholarship. I was going to tell them at the party, but I trail off, remembering Jessica's performance, the champagne, the announcement. Evelyn rises slowly, walks to an antique secretary desk, and pulls out a thick envelope. I've been waiting for the right moment to give you this. She hands it to me. Open it. Inside is a bank statement. The numbers make my eyes widen. That's my retirement fund, she says simply. I'm adding your name to the account tomorrow. Aunt Evelyn, I can't. You can and you will. Her voice turns sharp. I've watched you dim your light for far too long. This is your chance to shine on your own terms. My phone buzzes again. This time I glance at it. Lucas. It's about Jessica. You need to know the truth. There's something else, I tell Evelyn, showing her the messages. Lucas keeps trying to tell me something about Jessica. Part of me wants to know, but you're afraid it might change everything. I nod, unable to speak, past the lump in my throat. Listen carefully, Kylie. Evelyn leans forward, her eyes intense. You're standing at a crossroads. One path leads to more of the same, being the good daughter, the practical one, the one who understands. The other, she gestures to the envelope in my hands. The other leads to freedom, but it comes with a price. My phone lights up with a call from Mother. I let it ring. They're probably wondering where you are, Evelyn says softly. Wondering why their reliable daughter isn't home, accepting their decision with her usual grace. I stare at the bank statement, then at my phone as it falls silent. If I take this money, if I choose myself for once, then you'll have to live with that choice, good or bad. I stand up, decision crystallizing. I need to meet with Lucas. Whatever he knows about Jessica, it might help me understand what I'm really dealing with. Be careful, Evelyn warns. Knowledge is power, but it's also responsibility. Once you know something, you can't unknow it. I tuck the envelope into my bag and kiss her cheek. Thank you. For everything. One more thing, she calls as I reach the door. Whatever you decide to do with what Lucas tells you, make sure it's something you can live with. Revenge might feel sweet, but it leaves a bitter aftertaste. I pause at the threshold, thinking of Jessica's triumph last night, of my parents' casual dismissal of my future. Sometimes, I say quietly, bitter is exactly what we need to appreciate the sweet. As I walk to my car, I text Lucas back, meet me in an hour. I want to know everything. The coffee shop's afternoon crowd provides perfect cover as Lucas slides into the booth across from me. His usual confidence is gone, replaced by something darker, more desperate. You look terrible, I say, noting the shadows under his eyes. Your sister's been lying to everyone. He pulls out his phone, hands shaking slightly. Not just about us, about everything. I wrap my hands around my untouched coffee. What do you mean, everything? That Julliard acceptance she's so proud of. He scrolls through his messages, then turns the screen toward me. It's fake. She never got in. The words hit me like a physical blow. On the screen, I see email correspondence between Jessica and someone offering to create forged acceptance letters. The price makes me dizzy. There's more, Lucas continues, his voice dropping lower. She's been taking money from your parents for vocal coaching, but spending it on... He hesitates. On what? Gambling. Online mostly, but she's got debts at some real places too. Bad ones. My coffee has gone cold. I push it aside, my mind racing through every celebration, every proud announcement, every sacrifice my parents made. How much? With the fake Julliard tuition? He runs a hand through his disheveled hair. Almost 60,000, and that's just what I know about. My parents' refinanced mortgage, my stolen college fund, all for a lie. Why are you telling me this? Lucas looks away. Because I helped her hide it. Because I'm tired of watching her destroy everyone around her. Because... He meets my eyes. Because you're the only one who might actually do something about it. My phone buzzes. Jessica's name appears on the screen. Where are you? Mum and Dad are freaking out. She's going to ruin them, Lucas says quietly. And they'll let her, because they can't see past the perfect daughter they think she is. I stand up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. Send me everything. The emails, the gambling receipts, all of it. What are you going to do? The answer comes easily, wrapped in 20 years of being the responsible one, the practical one, the good daughter. I'm going to give her exactly what she deserves. I drive straight to my parents' house, Lucas's revelations burning in my mind. Through the living room window, I see Jessica pacing, phone to her ear, probably trying to call me again. Mother opens the door before I can knock. Kylie, where have you been? We've been so worried. I walk past her into the house, my heart pounding, but my voice steady. We need to talk, all of us. Father looks up from his newspaper. If this is about the college fund, it's about Jessica. I turn to face my sister, who's gone completely still. Should you tell them, or should I? The color drains from Jessica's face. Kylie, don't... Tell us what? Mother steps between us, her protective instincts kicking in. Always protecting Jessica. I pull out my phone, open the files Lucas sent. About how there is no Julliard acceptance. About where all that coaching money really went. The room goes silent. Jessica's phone slips from her hand, clattering on the hardwood floor. What is she talking about? Father stands slowly, his newspaper forgotten. She's lying, Jessica says quickly, but her voice trembles. She's always been jealous. I hold up my phone, evidence glowing on the screen. Want to see the proof? Mother reaches for the phone with shaking hands. As she reads, her face crumples. Father looks over her shoulder, his expression hardening with each scroll. Jessica? Mother's voice breaks on the name. Please tell me this isn't true. But Jessica doesn't answer. She stares at me with a mixture of hatred and fear that feels like victory. I'll be at Aunt Evelyn's, I say, turning toward the door. You all have a lot to discuss. Kylie, wait, Father calls after me. I pause at the threshold, thinking of Evelyn's warning about bitter aftertastes. But when I look back at Jessica's crumbling facade, at my parents' shattered illusions, I feel nothing but clean, cold satisfaction. Don't worry, I say softly. I'm sure Jessica will find a perfectly reasonable explanation for everything. She always does. The door closes behind me with a decisive click, and I step into the afternoon sun, leaving chaos in my wake. 3 days after I expose Jessica's lies, I find her sitting on Aunt Evelyn's front steps. She looks smaller somehow, her designer clothes replaced by jeans and an old sweater. How did you know I'd be here? I ask, keeping my distance. Where else would you go? Her voice lacks its usual polish. They kicked me out. I move past her to unlock the door. That sounds like a you problem. They're selling the house. The words stop me cold. The gambling debts. They're worse than what Lucas knew about. I turn slowly. How much worse? Bad enough that Dad's talking about bankruptcy. She wraps her arms around herself. Mum hasn't stopped crying since you left. The satisfaction I felt 3 days ago curdles in my stomach. This isn't what I wanted. Or maybe it is, and I'm only now seeing the full cost. Why are you here, Jessica? She stands, and for the first time in our lives, she looks up at me instead of down. Because you're the only one who ever saw through me. And because... She swallows hard. Because I need your help. I laugh, sharp and bitter. You want my help? After everything? I know where we can get the money back. Her words come faster now. Lucas wasn't just my boyfriend. He was my partner in all of this. He has access to accounts, connections. Stop. I hold up my hand. You're telling me Lucas was involved? He managed the money, made the arrangements, Everything. She pulls out her phone, shows me messages that make my blood run cold. He's threatening to disappear with all of it unless... Unless what? Unless I convince you to invest your inheritance from Great Aunt Evelyn. The pieces click into place. My hands shake as I unlock my phone and pull up Lucas's messages from the past week. Every word takes on new meaning. He played us both, I whisper. He knew I'd expose you if he showed me the evidence. He knew exactly what would happen. Jessica nods miserably. And now he has everything. The gambling money, Dad's refinancing cash, even some of Mom's jewelry I let him hold for safekeeping. I unlock Evelyn's door. Come inside. We need to talk. In Evelyn's kitchen, I make tea while Jessica sits at the table, looking lost among the cheerful yellow curtains and potted herbs. Why didn't you tell them about Lucas? I ask, setting down her cup. Would you believe me if I said I was protecting you? No, she almost smiles. He knew about your MIT scholarship, said if I exposed him, he'd make sure you never got the chance to use it. The tea scalds my throat. How did he know about that? He works in the university's financial aid office. It's how he finds his marks. She stares into her cup. I wasn't his first, Kylie. Just his biggest success so far. My phone buzzes. A text from Lucas. Time's running out. What's it going to be? I look at Jessica, really look at her. The perfect sister, the golden child, now reduced to asking for my help. Part of me wants to savor this moment, to let her suffer the consequences of her choices. But another part remembers being 5 years old, Jessica braiding my hair before school. 12 years old, her sneaking me chocolate after I failed a math test. 1,000 small kindnesses buried under years of resentment. If we do this, I say slowly, we do it my way. No more lies. What are you thinking? I pull out my laptop. I'm thinking it's time we showed Lucas what happens when he underestimates the practical sister. Jessica's eyes widen as I start typing. Won't this be dangerous? Probably. I pause, fingers hovering over the keyboard. But here's the difference between us, Jessica. When I decide to break the rules, I make sure I can't lose. I hit send on my reply to Lucas. Let's meet. I have a proposition for you. Jessica reaches across the table, her hand covering mine. I'm sorry for everything. I don't pull away, but I don't soften either. Save your apologies. We've got work to do. The sun sets outside Evelyn's kitchen window as we begin to plan. Two sisters united for the first time by something stronger than blood. Revenge. Lucas sits across from me at the upscale restaurant, his usual smirk firmly in place. 2 laptops rest between us like loaded weapons. You've got to admire the elegance of it, he says, sipping his wine. Using one sister's jealousy to expose the other's secrets. Poetry, really. I keep my face neutral, though my fingers tighten around my water glass. Show me the accounts. He turns his laptop toward me. Numbers scroll across the screen. Transactions, transfers, a web of financial manipulation that makes my head spin. My parents' life savings, Jessica's gambling debts, all of it funneled through offshore accounts. Your sister was surprisingly easy to manipulate, Lucas continues. But you were the real prize, Kylie. The quiet one, the smart one, the one who'd know exactly what to do with this information. And what makes you think I won't go to the police? His smile doesn't waver. Because you're practical. You know that if this goes public, your parents lose everything. Your MIT future evaporates. Jessica might even face charges. He leans forward. But if you work with me, everyone wins. I open my own laptop, pulling up the inheritance account details. How much? All of it. His eyes gleam. Consider it an investment in your family's future. My phone buzzes. A text from Jessica. He's logging in, now. I take a deep breath, thinking of the hours we spent planning this moment. Of Jessica's tears as she detailed every account, every password, every weakness in Lucas's scheme. Of Evelyn's quiet wisdom. Sometimes the best revenge is letting someone think they've won. I turn my laptop toward him. You're right about one thing. I am practical. Lucas's fingers fly over his keyboard, accessing the account I've shown him. His smile grows wider, then freezes. What is this? Every transaction you've made in the past year. I take a sip of water. Every account you've manipulated, every student you've scammed, all of it sent to the university board and the FBI about. I check my watch. 3 minutes ago. The color drains from his face. You're bluffing. Jessica wasn't the only one keeping records. I stand slowly. The difference is, mine are admissible in court. He lunges for his laptop, but it's too late. Error messages flash across his screen as accounts lock down one by one. The practical sister, I say softly. That's what you called me, right? The one who'd know exactly what to do with information. His chair scrapes back. You don't understand what you've done. I understand perfectly. You thought you could pit us against each other, use our family's dysfunction to your advantage. I close my laptop, but you forgot something crucial. What's that? Only I get to destroy my sister. The restaurant's doors burst open. 2 FBI agents approach our table, badges already out. This isn't over, Lucas hisses as they reach for him. I gather my things, watching as they lead him away. Actually, it is. And Lucas, the inheritance account, it was empty. I transferred everything out yesterday. Outside, Jessica waits in her car, engine running. I slide into the passenger seat, suddenly exhausted. Did it work? She asks. I nod, showing her the confirmation emails on my phone. The money's being returned, all of it. She lets out a shaky breath. What about Mum and Dad? They'll know soon enough. I stare out the window at the darkening sky. The question is, what are you going to tell them? The truth. Her knuckles whiten on the steering wheel. All of it this time, even the parts that make me look worse than I already do. I think of all the years of competition, of resentment, of trying to outshine each other. They might not forgive you. I know. She glances at me. Will you? The question hangs between us, heavy with 2 decades of complicated history. Drive, I say finally. We've got a lot to figure out. As we pull away from the restaurant, my phone lights up with a message from Evelyn. Remember, dear, revenge isn't always about destruction. Sometimes it's about reconstruction. I close my eyes, letting the weight of everything settle. Tomorrow, we'll deal with our parents, with the aftermath, with the years of damage we've all done to each other. But tonight, for the first time in years, I feel like I'm exactly where I need to be. The family home looks smaller now, its windows dark against the evening sky. Jessica and I sit in her car, watching our parents' silhouettes move behind the curtains. They know we're here, Jessica says quietly. Let them wait. My phone lights up with another message from the MIT admissions office. The scholarship committee wants to meet. Something about concerning information they've received. I switch the phone off without responding. Ready? Jessica asks. I nod, though my hands shake as I open the car door. The walk to the front door feels endless, each step heavier than the last. Mother opens the door before we knock. Her face is drawn, aged years in just days. Come in, she says, her voice flat. Your father's in his study. The house smells different, musty, like no one's bothered to open the windows. Moving boxes line the hallway, each labeled in Father's precise handwriting. In the study, Father sits behind his desk, looking smaller than I've ever seen him. Papers cover every surface. Bank statements, legal documents, letters from creditors. Sit, he says. We do. Jessica reaches for my hand under the desk. I let her take it. The FBI contacted me today, Father begins. About Lucas. About the money. His eyes fix on Jessica. About everything. Daddy, Jessica starts. He holds up his hand. Don't. His gaze shifts to me. They also mentioned you, Kylie. How you helped bring him down. How you tracked the money. I meet his stare. Someone had to. Yes. He picks up a letter from his desk. Someone did. But your actions, while perhaps justified, have consequences. The university's Board of Trustees is launching an investigation into all of us. My throat tightens. What does that mean? It means, Mother says from the doorway, that your father's position at the university is under review. It means your scholarship might be revoked. It means we're all going down together, Jessica interrupts. That's what you're saying, isn't it? Father nods slowly. The board doesn't look kindly on families involved in financial scandals, even if we were the victims. But Kylie stopped it, Jessica protests. She saved us. By breaking several federal laws in the process, Father cuts in. By hacking accounts, by setting up that sting operation without proper authority. The room spins slightly. Everything I'd done to fix this, to prove myself, to save them, it's all backfiring. There's more, Mother says. Your Aunt Evelyn. My head snaps up. What about her? She had a stroke this morning. The doctors. Mother's voice breaks. They're not optimistic. The world drops away. I stand so quickly my chair falls backward. Why didn't you call me? We tried. Father's voice sounds distant. Your phone was off. I stumble toward the door, but Father's next words freeze me in place. The inheritance account is frozen. All of it. The FBI considers it potential evidence. Jessica grabs my arm as my knees buckle. Kylie. Don't. I pull away from her. Just don't. Where are you going? Mother calls as I push past her. To the hospital. To Evelyn. To the only person who ever... I stop, choking on the words. The only person who ever what? Father asks quietly. I turn back, seeing them clearly for the first time. My broken family. All of us drowning in the consequences of our choices. The only person who ever saw me, I whisper. Not as the practical one, or the responsible one, or Jessica's shadow. Just me. I walk out into the night, their calls fading behind me. My phone buzzes again, the MIT committee, demanding answers. Another message from the FBI, requesting additional statements. A third from the hospital about Evelyn's condition. I ignore them all, walking blindly through streets I've known all my life, but suddenly don't recognize. Everything I've built, everything I've planned, everything I thought I was fixing, it's all falling apart. And for the first time since this all began, I have no practical solution, no clever plan, no way to make it right. Just the cold certainty that in trying to save everyone, I might have destroyed everything instead. The hospital corridor stretches endlessly before me as I approach Evelyn's room. Through the window, I see her small form surrounded by machines, and something else, Jessica, sitting by her bedside. My footsteps alert her. She looks up, eyes red-rimmed. The doctors say she was asking for you. I move past her to Evelyn's side, taking in the tubes, the steady beep of monitors. How long have you been here? All night. Jessica stands, smoothing her wrinkled clothes. She woke up briefly, said something about a letter in her desk drawer, for you. My hand finds Evelyn's, cold and still. Go home, Jessica. Actually, a new voice says from the doorway, she needs to stay. Lucas stands there, flanked by 2 police officers. My blood runs cold. What is this? Insurance, Lucas says smoothly, against any more of your clever plans. He holds up his phone, showing an email. Your aunt's medical records make for interesting reading, especially the part about her DNR order. Jessica moves closer to me. What are you talking about? Your sister here, Lucas gestures toward me, accessed your aunt's medical files when she was hacking into the university system. Modified some rather important documents. Didn't you, Kylie? The room spins slightly. That's not true, he smirks. The timestamps say otherwise. And now, with your aunt in this condition, those modifications look rather suspicious. You bastard, Jessica whispers. I learned from the best. He turns to the officers. Everything you need is on this drive, including evidence of tampering with medical records. One officer steps forward, reaching for handcuffs. Wait. Jessica's voice cuts through the tension. Check your phone again, Lucas. He frowns, looking down. His expression changes as he reads something on the screen. "What did you do?" he demands. Jessica straightens, and for a moment, I see the sister I used to know. Fierce, protective, unstoppable. "I forwarded your entire email history to the FBI, including the ones about how you plan to frame Kylie for everything. The ones where you detailed every step of your schemes. The ones you thought I was too stupid to find." Lucas lunges forward, but the officers grab him instead of me. "We received that evidence an hour ago," one says, along with confirmation from the hospital's IT department about when those records were actually accessed. And by whom. As they lead Lucas away, his threats echo down the corridor. Jessica collapses into the chair, shaking. "How?" I ask. "Turns out I learned a few things from my practical sister." She attempts a weak smile. "Like keeping records, like playing the long game, the monitor tracking Evelyn's heartbeat stutters, then steadies." "Why?" I sink into the chair opposite her. "After everything I did to you, to our family." "Because you were right." Jessica reaches across Evelyn's bed, offering her hand. "About everything. The lies, the manipulation, the way I let everyone worship me while you carried all the weight. And because..." She swallows hard. "Because you're my sister. And it's time I started acting like one." Before I can respond, Evelyn's fingers twitch in mine. Her eyes flutter open, focusing slowly. "My girls," she whispers. "Both of you, together." "Save your strength," I start, but she shakes her head. "Listen." Her voice is faint but clear. "The letter, in my desk, the real one. Read it together." Her eyes close again, but her grip remains strong. "Promise me." "We promise," Jessica says quickly. Evelyn's lips curve slightly. "Good, because neither of you can fix this alone. But together..." She drifts off, her breathing evening out into sleep. Jessica and I sit in silence, our hands linked across our aunt's bed, the weight of everything that's happened and everything still to come, settling between us. "What do you think is in the letter?" Jessica finally asks. I think of Evelyn's wisdom, her quiet strength, her unwavering faith in both of us. I think it's time we found out." The morning sun breaks through the window, casting long shadows across the floor. Somewhere in the hospital, a new day begins, and with it, perhaps, a new way forward, not through revenge or redemption, but through something else entirely, something that looks surprisingly like hope. Evelyn's desk drawer opens with a familiar creak. Jessica stands behind me as I reach inside, our shadows merging in the afternoon light streaming through the cottage windows. The letter sits exactly where she said it would be, but there's something else, a small wooden box I've never seen before. "Open it," Jessica whispers. Inside, I find 2 identical silver lockets. A note in Evelyn's elegant handwriting reads, "For my girls, when they're ready to see themselves and each other clearly." My hands shake as I lift them out. Each contains the same photograph, Jessica and me as children, laughing together on a swing set, before expectations and resentment built walls between us. "I remember that day," Jessica says softly. "You taught me how to pump my legs to go higher." The letter feels heavy in my hands. I break the seal and unfold it, Jessica reading over my shoulder. "My dearest girls, by now, you've learned the hardest lesson I could teach you, that revenge, no matter how justified, changes both the target and the archer. But here's what I hope you've also learned. Strength isn't found in standing alone, but in knowing when to reach for each other. Kylie, your practical nature isn't a shadow to hide in, but a light to guide by. And Jessica, your brilliance doesn't have to dim others to shine." The inheritance was never about money. It was about choice, about giving you both the freedom to choose who you want to be, together or apart. Choose wisely. All my love, Evelyn. A knock at the door interrupts us. Our parents stand there looking uncertain and aged. "We got your message," Father says, "about wanting to meet here." I gesture them inside, watching them take in the half-packed boxes, the evidence of Evelyn's recovery, an upcoming move to a rehabilitation center. The university board made their decision, Mother begins, but I hold up my hand. I know. Jessica told me about the scholarship reinstatement. I touch the locket around my neck. But that's not why we asked you here. Jessica steps forward, her own locket gleaming. We've made some decisions. Together, she pulls out a folder, the paperwork for a small business loan. My practical financial planning combined with her networking skills and performance connections. A music school, I explain, for students who can't afford traditional conservatory training. Using the settlement money from Lucas's case, Jessica adds, and... She hesitates, looking at me. And half of Evelyn's inheritance, I finish. The other half goes to her medical care. Our parents exchange glances. But your MIT plans, Father starts, are still happening. I can do both. I meet his eyes steadily. Just like Jessica can teach and perform, we're not choosing between our dreams anymore. Or between being sisters and being ourselves, Jessica adds quietly. Mother sinks into Evelyn's favorite chair, tears streaming down her face. We've made so many mistakes. Yes, I agree, but without the bitterness that once would have colored the word. And we'll probably make more, but not the same ones. Father clears his throat. The house sale closes next week. We found a smaller place near the university. He pauses. Near both of you if you want. Jessica and I share a look, years of competition and hurt flowing between us, but something else too. Understanding, possibility, choice. We'll think about it, Jessica says. I touch my locket again, feeling its weight against my chest. Not a burden anymore, but a reminder of who we were, who we are, who we might become. Evelyn's physical therapy starts tomorrow, I say. She'll need all of us. The word hangs in the air, us, not perfect, not fixed, but present, choosing to be here, in this moment, with all its complicated truth. Mother stands, reaching tentatively for both our hands. After a moment, we let her take them. Outside, the swing set where that old photograph was taken still stands in Evelyn's garden, creaking gently in the breeze, waiting perhaps for new stories to begin.